evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, depending on where around the world you are tuned in from. Let me fix my camera there. All right, welcome. Hey, Hazwan, Aisha, Jerry, Tracy, Nancy, Indrani, Shamik, welcome back. Hey, Tyrone, or Tyan, excuse me. My brain instantly read Tyrone because my husband's name is Tyrone, but that says Tyan. Welcome over on Clubhouse. Over on TikTok, Renisha, Christy, Stephanie, user 712, Tanya, and some more. Hey, Yo Chowda over on Instagram. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are hearing my voice right now, then comment live down in the comment section, okay? And tell me where around the world you are tuned in from, okay, Delvante? Okay, Susan? We have Anne Fran is tuned in live from Chicago. She says, hello, everyone. And also let me know if this is your first time ever tuning in to Devotional Time for Mindset, because stick around. You are in for a treat. Hey, Margaret. Hey, Otis. Welcome back to Mara. She says hello again over on TikTok. Hey, Patrice, Myron, Tawana, Ida Mae, Tamika. Hey, hey, hey. And if you're catching the replay later on because maybe it's your bedtime or it's the middle of your day because you're one of our overseas cousins, then still comment replay all day and let me know when you're watching the replay where you're tuned in from, okay? Welcome back, Cousin Tabitha Leo. She says hello on Instagram. Welcome back, Cousin Jessie. Oh my goodness, I love seeing all these repeat family members. All right. If you're tuned in right now, you are officially a Devotional Time for Mindset cousin. All right. We love you. We're here for you, support and encouraging you. Tamara says, I sent my prayer request last night. Awesome. Cousin Jessie says hello. Cousin Gordon says, I'm live from Indianapolis, stuck at Stoops Freightliner. Oh no. Well, I hope that you get unstuck soon so that you can get on to your destination. All right, guys, this is Devotional Time for Mindset, and we are on day 66 of our 100-day journey, really learning how to protect our minds from the enemy, because he knows how powerful our minds are, and that if he can control our thoughts, he can control our lives. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can to not only grow in our spiritual walk, but protect our thoughts and really be aware of how our thoughts impacts our behaviors, which creates the life that we are living. All right. Welcome back, Cousin Nancy. Welcome back, Cousin Angela. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, if you're new here, my name is Lindsay Vertner. I'm a mindset expert, speaker, and actress, and I work with high-achieving leaders to help them prioritize self without guilt. That is self-care, self-worth, and self-discipline, what I call the 3 pillars of self, because those 3 things subconsciously impact every single thing that you do in life. So it's important that we are aware of how exactly it influences us, okay? Cousin Auntie Kia is back. She says, hey, y'all, guess what? I'm home live from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Yes, congratulations. Listen, family, can everybody just show some love in the comments to Cousin Auntie Kia, because she has been in the hospital for at least 3 weeks and she finally went home today, and we were standing with her in prayer that she would be able to be released from the hospital, and today was that day. We are so happy for you. Cousin Katasha says, good morning. And she says, yay, Auntie Kia. She says, look at God. That is amazing. Tamara says, welcome home. I love it, love it, love it. So guys, listen, we are on day 66 of our 100-day journey. And if you are new here, you can download your free copy of the book, Battlefield of the Mind Devotional by Joyce Meyer. Not the book, but the devotional version of the book, okay? You can download your free copy at mindsetmastersuite.com. That way you can follow along with us as we go through the day's devotional. Cousin Jessie says, congratulations, sending lots of blessings over on TikTok. Cousin Nancy says, yes, Auntie Kia. Look, we are all super excited for you, okay? Cousin Tabitha over on Facebook says, welcome home. Auntie Kia says, thank you all. And Cousin Tabitha is tuned in live from Indianapolis. So we have 2 Cousin Tabithas, y'all. We have a Cousin Tabitha on Instagram and a Cousin Tabitha on Facebook. So FYI, if one of y'all are like, I didn't say that, then I'm probably talking about the other one. Now, other cousin Tabitha says, glad you're home, Auntie Kia. So mindsetmastersuite.com is where you can find all the things. If you want to tune in via video or check out any of the replays, you can click on the YouTube link. You can submit a prayer request like our cousin Tamara did. The button is all right there. You can subscribe to our official devotional time for mindset community on mindsetmastersuite.com. Okay. That is where you guys will be able to connect directly. So you guys just heard me shouting each other out and conversating y'all through me. But in the community, y'all can talk directly to each other, and we will have guest speakers, and I will present once a month. And it is just going to be an awesome time, because that is where we will meet after our 100-day journey here in this place is over. Okay. So make sure you subscribe, and you can find that button at mindsetmastersuite.com. Hey, welcome, Tony. Welcome, Kim. Auntie Fran says, or Aunt Fran, now I got her confused with Auntie Kia. Aunt Fran says, Auntie Kia, won't he do it? Auntie Kia says, oh, y'all are so sweet, making a cousin auntie feel so loved and things. Yes, that's what we're here for, right? Right, family? We are here to support and encourage one another as we grow in our spiritual journey together, all right? So for anybody that's new, please know that this is a safe space. We are here to, like I said, support and encourage one another. And this is not a place where we judge each other. So ain't none of that going on. This is not where we are mean girls or mean guys or anything like that. Okay. Because I will gather you with the quickness, but we don't have to ever get that far. Okay. But we are a family. We are the good kind, the ones that you like to be around at the family reunion. Cousin Nancy says, I joined the community. I'm excited. Yes, and I'm excited for you. Because remember, if y'all were here, I think it was day 59. I explained Moses' season versus Aaron's season. And then I had mentioned how right now I'm in a Moses season and y'all are just observers. But in the community, you guys will be in your Moses season, and I will be in the Aaron season, helping you guys in your Moses season. And if you don't know what I mean, go back and watch the replay. Like I said, I think it was day 59. It might have been day 61. It wasn't too long ago. Okay. So I know cousin Tabitha joined, cousin Jessie joined, and I'm just super excited for where that goes. So let's get started. Andrenai. Is it Andrenai or Andreni? Or neither of those? Let me know in the comments, and then let me know where you're tuned in from. And if this is your first time tuning in. I feel like yes, because I don't recall your username. It doesn't look very familiar to me. Okay, so Auntie Kia says, amen. We got lots of love up in here, up in here. Okay. Yes, it's getting hot in here. Or no, that was DMX. Up in here, up in here. Look, I'm getting all my songs mixed up, but I knew both of them, okay? So let's get started with day 66. And if you're new here, every day I read directly from the devotional. Again, you can download your free copy at mindsetmastersuite.com to follow along. And if you don't have the copy, no worries. I'm going to read it directly, and then we're going to start our discussion. Okay, Superman? So day 66 is titled Right from the Heart. The opening scripture reads, therefore, do not worry and be anxious, saying, what are we going to have to eat? Or what are we going to have to drink? Or what are we going to have to wear? That's from Matthew chapter 6, verse 31. The devotional reads, what are you going to do? As a Christian leader, I've come to believe this is one of Satan's favorite questions. I sometimes think he sends out special demons that have one specific task: to whisper this question in the ears of believers. What are you going to do? If you listen, the questions increase. The more the questions increase, the more negative and intense they become. Before long, you think of every possible obstacle on your path. You begin to feel as if nothing is right in your life. That is the devil's task. He and his helpers wage war on the battlefield of your mind. They want to engage you and other Christians in long, drawn out, costly combat. The more questions and uncertainties they raise, the greater their chances for victory over your mind. Jesus instructs us to stop being perpetually uneasy, anxious, and worried about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, or about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life greater in quality than food, and the body far above and more excellent than clothing? That's from verse 25. The first thing you need to remind yourself of is that you are living in disobedience when you allow anxieties to fill your mind. Jesus says, don't do that. Second, remind yourself that when you worry, you're looking at the wrong things. In school, most of us were shown pictures that were optical illusions. If we looked at a picture one way, we saw a woman's face. If we looked at it differently, we saw a rose. Think of that as a mindset. If you focus on Jesus and his loving arms stretched out to you, you live in peace. You know he's with you, and if he's with you, he will also take care of you. But if you focus on the other picture, you see only problems, defeats, and discouragement. It really does depend on where you concentrate your attention. The enemy knows that if he can feed your mind often enough and long enough with the wrong things, then he can make you think about and feel only the wrong things. For instance, instead of being thankful that the Lord has been with you through many dark and troublesome times, you can begin to ask, how did I get here anyway? What am I doing in this fix? If God really loved me, ... That's not the end of it. Once the devil starts to win in the area of poisoning your mind, he moves on. And before long, you're repeating Satan's words. Words that not only tear you down, but also hurt and tear down others. Then Satan has a double victory because he's trapped you and you've influenced others. Jesus said to the people of his day, "You offspring of vipers, how can you speak good things when you are evil? For out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good man from his inner good treasure flings forth good things, and the evil man out of his inner evil storehouse flings forth evil things." Those are strong, powerful words from Matthew 12, verse 34 and 35. They remind us that the devil starts with the whisper, just the smallest word of doubt in your ear. If you listen, his words get louder and you hear more things. Soon, you unconsciously listen for his misdirection. That leads you to speak the words in your heart, whatever they are. Once you speak, you move into action. You not only spoil your own relationship with God, but you become instruments to churn up doubts and fears in others. There's only one way for you to win. Refuse to listen to Satan. As soon as you hear such words, you need to say, "Satan, the Lord rebukes you. Stay out of my mind." The closing prayer reads, Lord Jesus, thank you for your words that remind me of the importance of my thoughts and my words. Please, I ask in your name, fill my heart with such an abundance of peace and joy that the enemy can never infiltrate my mind. May my words reflect your presence in my life. Amen. All right, guys, that was our day 66 devotional reading. Hey, welcome, Much You. Welcome back, cousin Jilly Bean. She says, hey, cousins, over on TikTok. Hey, Taka, Tikia. Hey, Green Apple Pie. Welcome back, May. Welcome back, Kia Simi. Good to see all of our good cousins back again and again. If you are new here, then welcome to the family, okay? So, again, you can download your free copy of the book at mindsetmastersuite.com. You can submit a prayer request at mindsetmastersuite.com. You can subscribe to our official devotional time for mindset community at mindsetmastersuite.com. You can do all the things at mindsetmastersuite.com. That is your home base for all things devotional time for mindset, aka DTM. Okay, so let's get into our discussions, family. Hey, pretty as me. Welcome. I need you guys to share this live stream out, like, love, comment, leave your questions, your insights, your ahas, do all the things, okay? Because the more that you engage with this live stream, then that tells the internet world that, hey, maybe we should share this with some new people that have no clue this exists. And you never know who may need this very live stream, because we've actually seen it play out in the comments already, where people are like, it just randomly popped up on my feed. And I am so grateful. And you know how it randomly pops up on their feeds is whenever you guys engage, then the internet says, oh, this is a popular live. Let's share it with some other people. And then that's how it randomly pops up on their feed. But we know that nothing in God's kingdom is by coincidence, okay? Everything happens for a reason. And partly that is thanks to you guys engaging in the content. So there's one thing that I want to point out from today's devotional reading, or actually a few things, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but what have I said probably every single day for the past 66 days? If I haven't said it at least once a day, I've at least said it every other day, but I'm almost positive I've said it every single day. Y'all should probably be saying this in your sleep by now. Anytime somebody says the word focus, y'all probably will hear my voice ringing through your heads because I say it so much. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and the thing you focus on, you attract more of into your life. And then here we come in our devotional reading today, and Joyce Meyer said that very similar sentiment. She said it really does depend on where you concentrate your attention. If you concentrate on God, then you have good things. Not that, you won't ever find yourself in troublesome situations, because that's just a part of the human experience, but you will have peace in those situations. You will have guidance. You will have help in those situations. You will have a more joyful and abundant life when you focus your life on God, when you put Him first of everything. And she said, but if you focus on the thoughts of the enemy, then you have anxiety, depression, all of the negative things that he tries to plant into our mind. All right. Just like how she gave the analogy of the optical illusion. Hey, Cousin Cunningham, welcome back. Hey, Cousin Shireen, welcome back. Cousin Cunningham says, hello, Lindsay. Stay safe, cuz. Always. All right. So think about, have any of you guys ever done optical illusions? I used to love those little 3D optical illusion books. And where it has the pixelated picture, and then you stare at it and then you see a new picture. And it was all about how you were concentrating on the picture if you ever found the hidden picture. But then I also love the brain teaser pictures where, like she said in the book, if you look at it one way, it looks like a woman. If you look at it another way, it looks like a rose. There's lots of those floating around, and it's so fun and interesting seeing how different people view the picture, even though it's the same picture. And so our minds are just like that. The enemy will plant a picture, and God will plant a picture. And which picture we see is the picture that we focus on. And so we have to make sure that we are intentional, Naime, that we focus on the picture from God and not the picture of the enemy. Okay? That is what we can control. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy to do that, but we need to be intentional about attempting to do that. Cousin Katasha says, yes, I like those. Me too. I've always liked just like brain teasers and stuff and figuring those out. visual picture brain teasers and then word brain teasers. I always like doing those. So another thing I wanted to point out from today's devotional is not only that reminder that where your focus goes, your energy flows, and the things you focus on you attract more of into your life. Cousin Kia says that's a good analogy. I love analogies too. If y'all have noticed, I like to use analogies all the time because it really helps to make complex things simple sometimes. Or whenever we just aren't understanding something, when we look at it from a different perspective, it really helps us to better understand. So here's something else that she pointed out, and this is what I definitely want you guys to take note of as well. She said, then Satan has a double victory because he's trapped you and you've influenced others. So what's something else that I've said plenty of times over these past 66 days? Is that we know that the enemy will send other people to help grow the seed that he planted. And usually these people don't realize that they are pawns sent by the enemy. But they are. Welcome back, Cousin D. Lee. And we've even been pawns sent by the enemy sometimes. When we allow our insecurities, our fears, our anxieties, our worries, our doubts, and we project them onto other people, that's whenever the enemy is using us against other people. And so she even said it right here, that whenever we are focusing on the enemy's picture, not only do we start to repeat those thoughts in our head, and then we start to behave in such a way that is in alignment with those thoughts, but we project that on to other people. And then they can be influenced by the way we're behaving or by the things that we're saying or thinking. Because what's something that I've said many times, our thoughts influences our words, which influences our actions, which influences the environment and how we interact with the world around us, essentially creating the life that we are living from day to day. Cousin D. Lee says, thank you over on TikTok. Okay. So listen, y'all, if I'm lying, I'm flying. I've been saying some of these things this whole 66 days. And now here we go. If you didn't listen to me, maybe now you listen to it from our cousin Joyce Meyer here, because she just gave those two same ideas or theories or principles, I should say, because it's not theory. It actually works in different words. Things that I already been saying. Cousin Kia says she said some of the same things that I have said about the devil whispering in your ear in my book. I have to get that thing published quick before people think I stole her content. LOL. Listen, Cousin Kia, no one's going to think that you stole her content, okay? Because these are universal principles. And it's just a matter of who we are going to listen to actually receive the principle. Have you guys ever noticed, like, maybe you were telling somebody, giving them some advice, and it's like they just weren't listening. And then here comes this random John, and they say the same thing to that person. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, that is such a great idea. I'm going to do that instantly. And you're looking at them like they're crazy because you're like, excuse me, I've been telling you that for the last month. I've been telling you that for the last 5 years. Oh, but now since this rando over here done said it, now it's an amazing idea. Because we aren't called to serve each and everybody. There are some people that are specifically attuned to my voice, and they receive the best medicine when they get it from me. But then there are some people that are specifically tuned to Joyce Meyer's voice, and some people that are specifically tuned to Auntie Kia's voice, or some people that are specifically tuned into Dee's voice, or Crafty Mama's voice, or Tabitha's voice, or Angela's voice, or anything like that, because we are all called to certain people. Sometimes there's an overlap of who those people are, but for the most part, we all have a subset of people that are specifically wired to be attuned to the things that we are saying or telling them. And that's why it's important that we show up when God is calling us to show up. Because when we don't, someone in the world is continuing to suffer. Someone in the world's healing is being delayed as a result of you not showing up. Why? Because they are specifically to be receiving their medicine from you, whether it's medicine to their next blessing, medicine to their next miracle, medicine to their next healing, medicine to their next level of elevation. Whatever it is they are due to receive from you, you are the best person to deliver it. And that's why we can't shy away or shrink ourselves when we're living in fear and when we're allowing the enemy to plant seeds of doubt or anxiety in our minds, saying we aren't good enough, or if I put this book out, no one's ever going to buy it. Or if I start this business, no one's ever going to support it. Or it's already 50 million other people selling t-shirts. So how can I also sell t-shirts? If God told you to sell t-shirts, I don't care if it was 100 million people selling t-shirts. And matter of fact, it is 100 million people selling t-shirts, but they're all making money. Because they're selling to different people. They are called to different people. And the people that you are meant to reach are for you regardless. And that's for everybody. Nancy says, yep. Cousin Tabitha Leo says, yes, I was trying to get someone to come here and he ignored me. Listen, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the situation because that's what happens. And usually it's the people that we want to help the most, but we have to learn that we can't want it more than they do. And sometimes we're to just plant the seed and somebody else is to grow it. Just like in that example that I gave, how if we were telling somebody something for years and years and years, and then somebody random comes in and says it one time, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my goodness, that's great and amazing. That wasn't our place to grow that seed. Maybe plant the seed, and then by the time it got to the rando person, then that was the moment and the season for it to be grown by that person. Does that make sense? So don't feel bad if you are ever trying to help somebody and it seems like they are dismissing you or curbing you or giving you the side eye like, yeah, okay, I see you. Meanwhile, I'm gonna be checking little shorty over here. Because just know that you did your part, okay? Auntie Kia says, that's true. Plus, the same Holy Spirit that speaks to you, speaks to me, and speaks to her, and speaks to everyone. Yes, yes, yes. So no worries. No one's going to think that you're a thief, okay? We love you. And we going to have your back if they do. We ride out at dawn in the name, okay, for Auntie Kia if they did try to call you a thief. Cousin Cunningham says, I am tuned to Lindsay Vertner's voice. You are a phenomenal woman. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Cousin Kia is laughing over on YouTube. Listen, y'all know we got to have our fun. Okay. So I had, what was I saying on that part? Oh, yes, we've influenced others. And so we have to be mindful that oftentimes we don't even realize that we're being used as pawns by the enemy. Okay? When our thoughts influences our words, influences our actions, influences our behaviors, and can influence other people. And some people are very influential, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So we have to be mindful that as believers of Christ, we are doing our best. We won't always get it right because we're only human, but we are attempting to do our best to plant positive seeds and be positively influential. Okay. Cousin Tabitha Leo says she is. Thank you guys. Cousin Atikia says, my cousin Lindsay is cray cray. Listen, we got to keep the party alive, okay? That was my little shimmy. Mm-hmm. It looked a lot better in my head. It looked better in my head. Cousin Kia says that's why I love her so much. And I love you back, okay? So we have to be mindful. Remember the other day when I talked about the ripple effects and I was sharing, I gave the examples of a negative ripple effect that was onto me by my husband, where his fears and anxiety rubbed off on me for only a moment because I was self-aware. I was able to catch it and course correct. And then I gave the example of my daughter and how my positive influence rubbed off on her, which rubbed off on her cousin. And then it went from her cousin back onto her when she was having a moment. And then I gave an example of my son, how me pouring into him and then he was pouring into his friend on the text messages. And so it can go either way, positive or negative. And we just have to be mindful of which one that we are rippling out into the world. Because the ripple goes so much further than you can ever imagine. All right. Hey, Agnes, welcome. Let me see. I think was that everything I wanted to say? Yes, that was the two things that I wanted to point out. Just being mindful that the enemy can use us as well. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to point out, because I don't know if you guys caught this, but she said once the devil starts to win in the area of poisoning your mind, he moves on. And I've said that plenty of times before. All he has to do is plant the seed, and 99% of the time, see, Amber, we will do the work to grow the seed. So he plants the seeds, but then we become the gardener. Okay, Jean Bass? But we have to be intentional about gardening the seed of God and not the seed of the enemy. Okay, that's why we're here. Nancy says, yep, we are all influencers. And so it's a matter of who do you want to be an influencer for? Remember when we talked about wearing God on your shirt? Like, what does your shirt say? What is your shirt telling people who don't know about Christ? What is your shirt telling people that feel some type of way about Christ? Is your shirt reading as evidence like, ooh, I want to learn more about that? Or is it pushing them further away? And then we often also talked about that we are the only Bible that some people will ever read, metaphorically and literally. And so we, again, have to be mindful of what we're putting out into the world. Cousin Tabitha Leo says, and the guy needed this session today. He would have loved you. Well, he's always got the replay, at least for now. I don't know if the replays will come down at the end of the 100-day journeys and only be available to the DTM community. I haven't been confirmed on that or not yet, if it's going to stay free to all the public or if it's going to be specifically to the DTM community. But for now, at least for the next 30-some days, the replay is available on YouTube. So hopefully he will find it. Just keep encouraging him, but don't feel discouraged if he keeps dismissing you. I actually had that discussion with someone. It was 2022 already. It was the fall of 2022. I can't believe that. Seems like it was just a couple months ago, but it was a whole year ago. Tamara said, same thing I told my cousin. We are the only Bible people will read. Yep. I was having a conversation because I had to do some work with a client in California, and I was having a conversation with the driver. And remember, family, how I said there are no coincidences in God's world. And here's the story about that. Hey, cousin Manaz, welcome back. It was time for me because where I was located, it was kind of not easy to get an Uber and everything. So I had a driver that was going to take me to the airport. And then I actually had planned on doing a little work and then going to sleep because the airport was like an hour and a half away. But I wasn't rude or anything. Once I got in the car, I said my greetings and everything. How you doing? Made my little small talk. And then I was quiet. And I don't remember how the conversation started, but maybe he asked me a question, or maybe I asked him a question. Hey, something nice. Welcome, welcome. And um, and so he asked me a question, and I said to him, because remember, I just kind of wanted to chill. I have been tired. I've been, training all week long. But in that moment, I took a pause, because this is why it's important that we are able to discern the Lord's voice, because we never know who is connected to our obedience to move in that moment. And so when he asked me the question, I took a pause, because I had an immediate answer that would have just, answered his question and ended the conversation. But I was feeling like, no, I think I need to be present in the moment with this young man. And so I said, do you want the short answer, or do you want the long answer? And he said, I mean, I'm open to the long answer, whatever you're willing to share. And then we proceeded to talk for that entire car ride. And when I say that this young man, like, he was battling through his own things, and, just really in that space where he was trying to do right, but he was also still kind of stuck in doing the wrong thing. And he had a whole bunch of things going on in his life. And he was, trying to get out, but still kind of not. And I just unintentionally ministered to this young man, and fed him exactly what he needed. And crazy thing was, remember, there are no coincidences. He wasn't even supposed to be my driver that day. Somebody else was supposed to be my driver, but then for some reason that driver couldn't make it, and he was supposed to be off, but then he said he could fill in. Now, if I would have just brushed him off being selfish and thinking about my own needs, and just answered him quickly, and then, went ahead and did my work and took my nap, then he would have missed that whole moment. Because I've kept in touch with him, and every now and then he'll send me a picture, not a picture, send me a message, and just share a little something, and update me on how things are changing, or how something he's worked on. And so he's literally trying to do the work, because that's something else that I'm very mindful of. I'm not going to feed into you if you aren't going to be willing to do the work with the information that I'm going to give you. I got 11 hours of free content online. If you don't want to do it, you just want to feel good in the moment, but you don't want to actually put in the mental and emotional work, go consume some free content while I spend my energy on other people that actually want to improve their situations, or elevate their situations, or whatever it is. But I could tell something just in the atmosphere said he is truly trying, and he is at a turning point in his life. But it was all because I was willing to pause and use discernment and listen to God, and allow God to use me in that moment. And so every now and then, when he'll give me a little update, I will remind him, that I'm proud of you. And it's going to be tough, especially when you're still in the same environment that you're trying to escape from. It's going to be tough, but you can do it. But I say all that to say, he asked me that very thing. So cousin Tabitha was talking about, she invited someone, but they didn't show up, and all we can do is plant the seed. He asked me that very same question. He was like, there's somebody that he is trying to help, and he feels like it's partially his fault that she's doing bad things that she's doing. And, he's trying to turn around and trying to redeem himself, and, he's trying to help her do better. But, like, at what point is it karma and versus, like, being led by God, something like that. I don't remember his exact question, but I had told him, like, you cannot beat yourself up for the mistakes that you have made in the past. That's what the enemy wants you to do. And I am telling this to all of you, family. This isn't just me sharing a story. Some of you need to hear this for yourself. Okay? You cannot beat yourself up for the mistakes that you made in the past. Now, I am not saying that you won't reap the consequences of said mistakes, but God does show mercy and He does show grace. And you can do what you can from here on out to do better. When you know better, you do better. It even says in the Bible, we can't fault the non-believers for what they don't know because they don't know it. So we can't be mad at them for thinking one way or behaving one way when they don't know what to do. But once you know what to do, then you have to be accountable. And I could see he was trying to be accountable, but he was frustrated because he felt like he wasn't getting through and it was all his fault. And I had to tell him, all you can do is plant the seed. You can't be concerned on if she chooses to grow the seed or not grow the seed. That is not your responsibility. That is between her and God. Now, if God specifically tells you to help her grow the seed, then you do that. But more often than not, we are to just plant the seed. And here's the thing with seeds. Sometimes you're going to plant them on good soil and things are going to grow and bloom. But sometimes you're going to plant them on bad soil and it's going to go nowhere. Sometimes you're going to plant them and birds or animals are going to come and eat the seeds. We can't control what happens to the seeds that we plant. All we can do is to plant the seeds. How it gets gardened, how it gets grown, that is specifically up to the person who is the soil that you planted the seed in. And some of us get overwhelmed and exhausted because we are trying to grow all of the seeds that we planted in other people. And God didn't ask us to do that. He said, all I need you to do is throw a seed down and keep it moving. Throw a seed down and keep it moving. Throw a seed down and keep it moving. I didn't ask you to stay there and till the ground and knead the soil and water the soil and prune the leaves and keep away the creatures. I did not ask you to do all that. Just plant the seed and keep it moving. So, hey, Kay. Hey, Dana. Kay says, God bless you, Lindsay. Thank you, Kay. I don't know who needed to hear that, but there you go. Okay. Dana says, love the message over on Instagram. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, cousin. So, plant the seed. And remember, we have to be mindful of the seeds that we're planting because sometimes the enemy will take a seed and plant it in us, and we will become the gardeners of the enemy seed, and we will unintentionally soil the roots or the plants or the fruit of other people. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been arguing with somebody and they are just going on and on and on about whatever, and you are just like, where did that even come from? You are projecting all of your fears or all of your insecurities or whatever it is onto me, and I had nothing to do with this situation. That is the enemy using them as a pawn. Or remember whenever I was telling you about the 1 star on my Uber rating, I had all these hundreds of 5 stars because I use Uber all the time. And then I'm like, why is it not a perfect 5.0? And then I actually click on it and there is one singular 1 star. No 2 stars, no 3 stars, no 4 stars, hundreds of 5 stars, and one singular 1 star. And see, initially it was like, oh no, who done gave me a 1 star? But because I'm aware of how the enemy works, I was able to stop that thought immediately and say, nope, nope, nope. What you're not going to do is get frustrated and upset over this singular 1 star, because obviously, because I know how I am, and I know that there has never been a time in my Uber existence that I have ever been rude to anyone. And so Obviously, what has happened is that someone must have been having a bad day and they decided to project that bad day onto me and give me a 1-star rating. That was the enemy using them as a pawn to try and get me also frustrated, but I didn't fall for it. Because here's the thing, sometimes I want you guys to know as well. Sometimes when your light is shining so bright, there are some people that are so consumed in the enemy's thoughts and so toxic that they can't stand to be around your light. And they will do any and everything to dim your light for their comfort. Somebody needs to hear that. Hey, cousin lovely, welcome back. Some of you have a light that is so bright that it makes toxic people uncomfortable, that they will do all that they can to dim your light. Whether that's project things onto you, whether that's call you names, whether that's be toxic, whether that is to try and damage your materials, I don't know. Try to cause you to have a bad day just because they were having a bad day, but they can't stand how brightly you are shining. But hear me out, cousins. Please, by no means, never let another person dim your light, period. If you are too bright for them, tell them to put on some shades and keep it moving. Because God never once told you to dim your light. He never once told you to shrink yourself. And whenever you decide to shrink yourself, or when you decide to dim your light, or when you decide to cower away from wherever God has called you, that is the enemy. And he likes to do that. He likes to send other people to help you do that or encourage you to do that. But we can't fall into his trap. Thanks for the like on TikTok, lovely. And thanks for the sunflowers. Cousin Tabitha Leo says, I did. I needed to hear that. Cousin Dana says, prayers needed for my mom with stage 4 cancer. Absolutely, Dana. She says, shine so bright you blind others. You got it, family? So those were some bonus messages, those last couple messages we just got, okay? Because that's nowhere in my notes. Those were some bonus messages for whomever needed it, all right? Take it. Have at it. Cousin Gordon says, that's right. I'm so happy that my light had been shining much brighter than in the past. Kudos to you. Kudos. Welcome back, Cousin Beltra. Okay, guys. So we have been talking about just fear and anxieties. And today's topic was right from the heart. Tabitha says, thank you on Instagram. You're very welcome. Over on Clubhouse, Nancy says, thank you. Love the bonus. Absolutely. You know, when it comes, I'm going to give it to you. Okay. I'm going to give it to you. Even if I have to pause mid-sentence, I'm going to give it to you. So we're talking about right from the heart. And in this devotional, you know, she is just reminding us that we can't allow ourselves to live in the anxieties that we're feeling. And we have to be mindful because those anxieties can often stem and make us feel things in our hearts because our thoughts and our emotions, they flow together. And the things that we think creates the emotions that we feel. And so if we want to change the emotions that we feel, we have to change the thoughts that we're thinking. And so when we're thinking anxious thoughts, you might be asking yourself, well, Lindsay, how in the world do I stop all these anxious thoughts? Well, I'm glad you asked, Leslie. Okay. Now, we've talked about this plenty of times already. And so today I'm going to share some more tips because I don't remember what replay that was, but I'm going to share some more tips on how we can calm our anxious thoughts. Essentially, we want to clear our hearts. Have y'all ever been in a church service and they say all hearts and mind are clear? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Cousin Tabitha Leo says, I have social anxiety. Well, here's what I would like you to start off with doing is stop saying that you have social anxiety. Okay. Now, I know that that sounded very dismissive, but that is not what I meant. And so stick with me for a second. And this is for anybody because remember, the power of the tongue can speak life or death. And so we have to be very mindful and we have to make sure that we aren't allowing casual covenants to ever leave our mouth because the things that we are speaking, we are essentially writing into our reality. Cousin Lovely says yes, and the A-OK. Kia Simi says to be present in your thoughts. That's what we're gonna talk about. Auntie Kia says, Amen, Cousin Gordon. Cousin Katasha says, I know someone who literally got fired for that, shining too bright. It was ridiculous. Mean Girls got her fired. And that's just crazy. It is crazy that we live in a world like that. But you know what? As long as she is faithful, I bet you God is going to give her double for her trouble. Just like the video we saw, I think it was last week, a couple days ago, about the young lady who got fired unexpectedly at the beginning, and she was upset, but she was trusting God and gave it all to God. And then by the end of February, she had received a job offer that was paying 2.5 times more than her previous job. So hopefully that happened with the person that you know. Kia says, wow, that's crazy. Nancy says, agreed. Okay, so let me go back to this statement. Y'all about to get another bonus lesson about we don't do casual covenants. Okay, family? And what I mean by that is that we have to be mindful of the things that we are speaking. And so the more that we say, I have ... then the more that we are thinking and behaving in a way that fulfills that very thought and creating that very reality for us. Now, yes, it can be diagnosing things, but that doesn't mean that we can't do our part to try and reverse that diagnosis. Or even sometimes we just aren't even diagnosed, but mental health is the buzzword these days, and rightfully so. Y'all know I'm an advocate all day, every day for mental health. Okay, period. But it's getting to be so casual and it's getting to be the norm where people like it's the cool thing to do type of thing. Like, I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, we're in the kitchen and my daughter, she was like, I don't remember what she was talking about, but she was like, yeah, because I have ADD. I said, excuse me, what? She said, I have ADD. I have ADHD. I said, girl, don't you ever. No, you do not. And she said, yes, I do. I said, who told you that? You do not, and you will not say such a thing. And she was like, well, I can't be still. I want to move. And, it's hard for me to pay attention. I was like, I have seen you sit and pay attention to the things you want to pay attention to very often. And you are a child with lots of energy. It's normal for you not to sit still. But when it's time for you to sit still, you are perfectly capable of sitting still through class, sitting still through a movie, sitting still when you are supposed to sit still. You sit still just fine. So don't you ever let me hear you say, I have ADHD again. Because what we're not going to do is claim anything of that type over your life for no reason. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of us are doing. Does that make sense? So we have to be mindful of the casual covenants, just like that one time I was talking about, I don't call myself broke. If I ever say the word broke, I am specifically referring to something that has become broken, not to my bank account. Because we're speaking that poverty over our lives. And it might seem small and dismissive, but remember, we learned on previous days that the enemy wants you to think that it's small and dismissive and insignificant, because the more that you think that, then the more normal it becomes. And then what started at a level 1 can grow to a level 2, and then it can grow to a level 3. And before you know it, it's a level 100, and you don't know how you got there. It's because it started with those small, little by little, seemingly insignificant things that added up to the big moments. And we've talked about that on a whole completely different day. Cousin Tabitha says, I'm letting go of it. Got it. So instead, start speaking over yourself something that is in complete opposite to that, or something that you aspire to be. Just like My son used to have such an issue going into the store, or like, of course, obviously when he was younger, I didn't send him into the store by himself, but like if he wanted to purchase something or get some snacks, I would have him check it out. I would give him the card or give him the money, and I would say, okay, check it out. Make sure you got your right change. Make sure you get your receipt, get your bag, whatever. And then as he got older, I would send him in the store himself, pull up to the gas station, sit right in front of the door. Okay, you want a drink? Go in and get yourself a drink. And he used to get so anxious to Neil that he would say, oh, never mind. I don't want it anymore. No, absolutely not. We're going to sit here until you go in that gas station and get your drink. And you can see like the anxiety and the fearfulness, and it perplexed me because I never put that spirit onto him. Remember that other day when I had all the family anecdotes, I told you that I tried to pour into my children as much as possible, and guide them to explore and find what they like and what they don't like, and do all those things. And I know that it comes from his friend circle, his environment, because that seems to be the new it thing to do. Let's prescribe all these kids with all these different diagnoses that they don't necessarily need. And I don't mean to like get on a soapbox, but it's important for even as us as adults that we're mindful of these things, of how it's playing out in our children and how it's playing out in ourselves. And so there's a whole bunch of people that are on medicines that they don't need just because somebody told them that they needed it. And that's why I tell you guys that if you are ever going to get a therapist, which I'm a very big advocate for therapy, everybody should have a therapist, even if you're not going through anything. Okay. But I also say, make sure that you pray over your therapist for God to send you the right one, because unfortunately, and this goes through any field, not just in therapy and counseling, unfortunately, there are some people that are in it just to be in it, just for a paycheck, and they don't necessarily have your best self in mind. It's not coming to me. Your best interest. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. They don't have your best interest in mind. It's like if you watch that documentary, not the documentary, but the movie, I forgot what it's called, but about the opioids that came out. I think it was on Netflix. It might have been Hulu, but I think it was Netflix. But it was about when the rise of the opioids, the narcotics, and doctors were getting paid bonuses to prescribe them. And the more that they prescribed them, the more bonuses they got. And now all these people are addicted to a prescribed drug. That movie. I forgot what it's called. And so, unfortunately, there are people out there like that. So just make sure you're doing your due diligence to research who it is that you're working with, and pray over them like, God, please let me, like, guide me to the therapist that is for me, or whatever. But then on a regular day-to-day basis, making sure that we aren't speaking out those casual covenants. And so speak the opposite. So back to the story with my son, I would make him go in there. And of course, he did not like doing that. And the more I did it, the easier it got. And now he can walk into the store with ease. I don't have to push him to go in the store. Oh, you want some candy? I can just pull up to the gas station. He'll hop on out, go in, hop on back in. But it was a process. It didn't happen overnight, but it started with helping him and guiding him to say, oh no, what we're not going to do is claim social anxiety over you. Because I know a lot of his friends, like how I gave you guys the text message story about the one little girl that was on all kinds of medicines, and she's like, I'm having a panic attack right now. A lot of his friends, that's all they talk about. And it's like I said, the cool thing to do. And so I said, no, not in this house, not for me and my son. I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure that he has the tools and the resources to not live under those spirits, to not be tormented by those spirits, because we know that those spirits are spirits of the enemy. They are not fruits of the spirit. They are fungus of the spirit, of the enemy spirit. Hey, Karen, welcome. Cousin Tabitha Leo says, I like to talk in front of people and keep saying that. Instead of being nervous, like find the positive. What's the worst that can happen? Say, I am great in social settings. I am great at making friends, whatever it is. I am great at going in the gas station and buying a drink. And it might be uncomfortable when you first start. Like I said, it's a process, just like I showed you with my son. But the more you do it, the easier it gets until eventually that becomes your norm. Okay? Hey, Cousin Joyce, welcome back. Thank you. Yes, I could. I don't know. It wasn't coming to me. Interests do not have your best interest at heart. Cousin Kia says, not fungus of the spirit. I never heard it put like that before, cuz I got to use that one. Look, I don't what be coming out, just be coming out, okay? Yes, we got fruits of the spirit from God, and we got fungus of the spirit from the enemy. The bad kind of fungus, the fungus that stinks and burns and spreads and looks gross and is bubbly and frothy, okay, and itchy. Not the good fungus like a mushroom we put on our pizza. That's the good kind of fungus. Anywho, okay, let me get back on task. So that was another bonus lesson that we just got. We done had 3 bonuses today, or maybe 4. 3 for sure. Was it 4? Kia says mildew and mold of the spirit too. Got that M&M, that mildew and mold. I don't want no parts. Okay, so be mindful of the things that you are speaking over your life, no matter how seemingly insignificant it seems, no matter how small it seems, because like I've said, we have learned before that the small things matter. And it's the consistent small things that we do that make the big difference. Okay. So, with that said, how about we learn 16 tips to calm our hearts from anxious thoughts? Okay, family? Are y'all still tuned in live on TikTok? Let me know if y'all can still hear me because it's doing that funky look again. Oops. I don't know what. Okay, Cousin Lovely says yes. Awesome. Okay, so 16 tips to calm our hearts from anxious thoughts. Now, we're going to start with some easy, it kind of seems like common sense, but we all know that common sense ain't so common, but we're just going to knock these superficial ones out of the way. So when you feel yourself getting anxious, you can exercise. That's tip number 1. Just moving your body can help. You know, some people like to exercise for fun because it's stress relieving and relaxing to them. That's not the relaxing method for me. And that's why we have 16 different tips, okay? There is no one way to do it. Because what's relaxing to one is stressful to another. Some people like coloring. I like coloring. Some people get stressed out by coloring because they're allowing the perfectionism to overtake the relaxation that can come from coloring, or whatever reason. Some people like coloring, some people don't. Some people like reading, some people don't. Some people like movies, some people don't. So exercise, that's tip number 1. Eating healthy can make a difference. Again, we're going to knock out these simple ones and then we're going to go into some deeper ones. But eating healthy can make a difference. The food you consume, and this is really a struggle in the US because there's a lot of chemicals in our foods. And, oftentimes overseas, there's a lot healthier options. And so just being mindful where you can. Okay. And even the healthy options that they present to us, specifically in the US, still has some shadiness unto it. The more that you look into the actual ingredients and the more that you do the research, it's like, oh, this is supposed to be healthy, but it's equally as bad as the other stuff. And once you like start to do the research and the history behind of how certain foods became prominent and things like that. Oh, I just actually watched a good documentary. Hey, Miss Dia Smith, welcome. It was called, I'm sorry, I don't know why I can't remember all of these things, but it's on Netflix for sure. And I think it's called You Are What You Eat. But it was about a twin study. So they did a study of identical twins because, identical twins, they carry much of the same DNA versus a brother and sister. So they use, I think it was like 90 or 100 identical twins. And one twin was on like a vegan diet and one twin was on an omnivore diet, which meant they could eat anything. And then like they did a whole bunch of tests at the beginning and they had a whole bunch of controls. And then, they checked on them regularly. And then they did all the tests again at the end and they were checking all these different levels and all these different health things in their bodies and just all kinds from their mental to their blood work to they even had to test their poop and their pee. Like that's how in depth they were doing of the test to see if diet made a difference. And it did. And that is only one of many. Okay. So you can do the research yourself. Feel free to watch that one. I think it was called You Are What You Eat, but it was about the twin study. I think it was like 4 or 5 episodes or something. So just being mindful of the things that you eat. I'm sure, have you guys ever had a big meal and then all of a sudden you feel sluggish and tired? Or have you ever had a fast and your body is going through withdrawal? Like, for example, I've done 3 and 5 day fasts and things where I'm only drinking water. Like I've done a water fast for 5 days and I've done a water fast with fruits and vegetables for 5 days as well. And in the First day is fine. Second day is when the headaches kick in. And if I can make it past the third day, like I always have to tell myself, just make it past the third day, make it past the third day, because then it becomes easy selling. Those first couple days, I'm going through withdrawal from the chemicals of all the food that I'm eating, from the sugar. Sugar is as addictive as like crack and heroin, if not more. Like there's been studies to prove that. And so being mindful of the things that we are putting into our bodies, okay? And after I make it through the third day, then it's like I don't feel as sluggish, I don't feel as bloated. I feel like, like I can sit and concentrate a whole lot easier. So, exercising, being mindful of what you eat. So, just eating healthier, limiting your alcohol and drug use. That is another one. Just laughing, family. Laughing is actually a great medicine. Now, don't laugh to suppress away the feelings, okay? But genuinely laughing can really just pick up your mood and boost the serotonin chemicals within our body. Laughing, talking, dancing, who cares if you ain't got no rhythm, all right? We gonna love you anyway. All right, pull up a YouTube video and do a tutorial or something. All right, you don't have to dance in front of anybody. Dance in your living room by yourself. Just do something that has nothing to do with anything. All right, things like that can help us to calm ourselves. Hey, cousin Shinny, welcome back. Cousin Tabitha Leo says yes. Hey, Zakare over on Clubhouse. Cousin Nancy says, agreed, just watched it, Stanford University. Is that what it's called? You Are What You Eat? Because I think that's what it's called. You Are What You Eat. Was that what it was called? But did you like it? Yes. Okay. That is what it was called. Thank you, Cousin Nancy. See, y'all, look, this is how the enemy, he tries to play in our faces all the time. Because remember the other day when I told y'all, I just got a message again. We are sitting here talking about God and how to decrease anxiety. And I just get a warning on TikTok that says your live may contain themes not suitable for younger audiences and has been age restricted. What on here have I said that wouldn't be suitable for a child. Now, maybe they might not understand it because I'm not speaking in child speak. I'm not speaking at a child's level, but there are plenty of intelligent children that understand more than we give them credit for. And so the fact that they're telling me that when we talk about God and when we talk about ways to decrease our anxiety, that's a problem to share with the kids. Okay, TikTok. Whatever. But that just goes to show how much the enemy wants to knock out the positive messages. Because it's okay for the fight videos to spread, but it's not okay to talk about tips to decrease our anxiety. Jeez Louise. Cousin Nancy says, loved it. Yeah, so y'all should put that on your watch list, okay? Because it was a nice, and it's a quick, easy watch. Cousin Katasha says, it allows you to scan the packages for food and cosmetics. Eye-opening. Cousin Kia says, what does Katasha? And I was about to ask the same thing. Yes. And she says, the Yuka app. Oh, my goodness. That's what that was. Let me write that down, the Yuka app. Because I just deleted a whole bunch of apps off my phone. And I remember seeing that. I was like, what is the Yuka app? And I deleted it. So I must have downloaded it a long time ago and never actually used it. How many times have we said information and knowledge is useful if we don't apply it? And because I never used it, I forgot completely what it was for and why I downloaded it in the first place, and I deleted it. Thank you. Kia says, they censor everything. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. Nancy says, enemy is coming in, not here, not tonight. I know, right? Not today, Satan. Tabitha says she has that app. Okay, so those were some easy, simple ones. Exercise, eating healthy, limit your alcohol and drugs, laugh, talk, dance. All right, so let's move into some other stuff. Now, really, this should be number one, and I actually did write it down as number one, but I wanted to knock out the easy tips, easy in quotes, okay? Pray. First and foremost, to calm your heart from anxious thoughts, pray, 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 and pray some more. Give it to God. We talked about that yesterday, giving your worries to God and trusting that God will handle the worries that you give him. Number two, use scripture. We talked about that all the time. Praying and scripture are two spiritual weapons that you have at your disposal that you can use at any time. And as I said before, we don't have to memorize the whole, this is not the Bible. I always do that because it's the closest book to me. And so I pick it up like it's the Bible. We don't have to use the Bible or memorize the Bible from front to back, all the words and all the books and all the verses and all the scriptures. Okay? Just study it on a regular basis. And then pick you out a couple verses that you do commit to memory, so that when you have an anxious moment, you can spit that verse out, because we talked about on the previous day how the enemy tried to tempt Jesus 3 different times. And each time Jesus defeated him by speaking the word back to him. Okay, so let's look at one specifically for anxiety. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 through 7. Give me a second while I hydrate. Okay, Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Verse 7. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. It says it plain as day, cousins. Right there. Verse 6, do not be anxious about anything. Got it? He's telling you straight up, don't worry about it. But in everything, pray and ask with a grateful heart. Present the things that you need to God. Pray about them. Pray about it. Ask him for it. Be grateful for it. Present your request to God. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Verse 7. And the peace of God, and we've talked about the peace from God many of times already, which transcends all understanding, because what did we say? Oftentimes we fall short because we're trying to get peace from other people or other situations here on this earthly realm in our fleshly sense. But true peace can only be given by God. And whenever you get peace from God, other people aren't going to understand the peace that you have, because it's a spiritual thing. And it transcends all understanding. And when you receive that peace of God, it helps you to guard not only your heart, but also your mind. So your thoughts and your emotions. It's right there in scripture, family. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Boom. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. Easy peasy. Kia says the 23rd Psalm is a calming scripture passage that I always was taught to go to. Wait, let me write that down too. Psalm 23 and Psalm 91. She says Psalm 91 is another one of my favorites for calming anxious thoughts. Thank you for sharing those. And please, if you haven't already, make sure you go to mindsetmastersuite.com and submit that on our favorite list. And that goes for all of you. If you have favorite scriptures that you like to use, put them in our favorite list submission, okay? Because that way it's all in the same spot. Because when I'm putting that together, I'm not going to remember to go back through my notes and see what everyone said. So go to that form, input your favorite scripture, your favorite inspirational songs, your favorite inspirational personal development books, whatever you have. You don't have to complete all three if you don't have all three. And if you got 5 of them in one category, put all 5. It's okay. Okay, because at the end of our 100-day journey, I'm going to take all the answers from the 100 days and put it into a file and share it with the DTM community. Okay. Cousin Kia says you are very welcome over on Clubhouse. Cousin Nancy says, please share. I'm learning a lot from y'all. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So scripture. Next, we have acknowledge our feelings. We don't want to suppress the things that we're feeling, because remember, you can't heal what you conceal. Okay? So whenever we catch ourselves feeling anxious, acknowledge that you're feeling anxious. Don't try and run and hide from it, because you're going to be running and hiding for the rest of your life. But acknowledge, take a pause, take a breath, and say, I am feeling anxious right now. And just breathe. Acknowledge how you are feeling. You can do this when you're angry. You can do this when you're sad. Like, I am feeling sad right now. Just speaking those words out loud starts to decrease the level that you're feeling. Hey, Olivia. And then the next tip is to, if you can, do your best to identify the root cause of that feeling. So, okay, I am feeling anxious right now because I am triggered in this moment. Then you have to ask yourself, well, why am I triggered? Or I am feeling doubtful right now because the last time I tried this, I was not successful. Okay. Now that you have acknowledged the feeling and you have identified the root cause of that feeling, even though it's likely goes much deeper than that, but now you can say, okay, what can I do differently that I have control over than I did the last time? You guys following? Next tip, run a test, a litmus test. And we've talked about these questions before. Ask yourself, can I control the thing that I'm anxious about? If the answer is no, then you need to give it to God and let it go, because you're causing yourself unnecessary stress. That's like me getting mad that it's snowing outside when I can't control the weather. I know that it snows. I know that it rains. I know sometimes the sun is shining. And if I had plans that were going to be outside, okay, now I got to adjust my plans. I need to be open and flexible to that. What can I do instead if the snow will not allow me to do what I had originally planned to do? But I can't get mad that it's snowing, because the weather's going to do what the weather's going to do. That's like getting mad at a duck for quacking. A duck quacks. You can't control a duck quacking. So why are you mad that a duck is quacking? You can control if you're around a duck, but you can't control a duck's quack. D. Lee is laughing at me. Look, I'm just saying, family. Because that's how silly we look whenever we're getting mad about things that we can't control, when we're getting frustrated and fearful and anxious about things that we can't control. That's exactly what we look like. We look like somebody that is mad at a duck for quacking when a duck quacks. D. Lee said that needs to be a shirt. We're going to have like 50-11 shirts up in here. Okay? So, can I control it? If the answer is no, give it to God and let it go. If the answer is yes, then we need to identify what actions do I need to take to change the situation. Also ask yourself, what evidence do I have to prove that this even is a logical fear? That this is even likely to come true? Okay, so just run a test. Number 6, use distractions. Now, again, I already said we don't want to run from the feeling and hide from it, because we'll be running all our lives. But sometimes when we are consumed in the anxious thoughts and nothing seems to be working, we can turn to a distraction, something that will take our minds off of it. That's where doing a puzzle might come into play, or coloring a coloring book might come into play, or exercising might come into play, or dancing to the music might come into play. Even if it gets our minds off of it for only 30 minutes, that is 30 minutes less that we were consumed with anxious thoughts. Remember, progress over perfection. Cousin Tabitha Leo says, I can't control other people's reactions. That's on reason because of essay. I'll give it to God. I can't control other people's reactions. That's on reason because of social anxiety. Is that what you mean with essay? I'll give it to God. If you could clarify just a little bit your statement. Let me see. Kia says, sometimes I get mad when my dog sometimes I get mad when my dog barks, knowing that she's a dog and she's supposed to bark. Exactly. Yes. Like, it kills me when I see parents just fussing at their kids for no reason. And I get it. Some kids are a little bit more rambunctious than others, but you can't get mad at a kid for doing what kids do. First step is awareness, Kia. Tabitha says, yes, what? Okay, got it. So use reminders. We talked about reminders the other day. What day? Oops, I didn't mean to turn y'all away. Use distractions, use reminders. That was on, we just talked about that. Why can't I find it? I feel like it was recently, not that far back. Well, I don't know where it was been in the last week that we talked about reminders. Right from the God's responsibility, anxious mind. Oh, there we go. Day 64. We talked about reminders and the importance of reminders. Use reminders when we're feeling anxious about things. Reminders of God's goodness, reminders of God's blessings, reminders of how God has provided for us when we were in need. Tabitha says, I can't control other people's reactions. That's one reason, because of social anxiety, I'll give it to God. Gotcha. Kia says, and quick to tell her to stop all that raggedy barking. Well, listen, you better tell our little cousin dog, bark her heart away. Yes, Kia says, make a gratitude list. Yes. Another tip, that's a bonus tip. Make a gratitude list, things to be grateful for. And we talked about on one of the previous days, making a love jar. I know Katasha, and she even shared it with her friends about making a love jar. I don't remember what day that was, but go back and watch the replay. Number 8, breathe. And don't just breathe, but breathe deeply, because a lot of times we don't realize it, but we have very shallow breathing. And the more that we can breathe deeply, then we're actually getting more oxygen to our brains, which helps us to function better. So I don't want you to just breathe, but when you breathe, I actually want you to feel your chest rising and falling, feel your stomach rising and falling, feel your shoulders rising and falling, feeling the air out your nose and your mouth. Okay. This is what I want you to do. I want you to breathe for 5. So you're going to breathe in for 5, like a very slow breathe. It's hard for me to actually talk you through it and do it at the same time. But as you're breathing in, you're going to do a slow count to 5. And then you're going to hold it for 5. And then you're going to slowly breathe it out your mouth for 5. So let's try it. Okay. You guys do the breathing. I'm going to do the counting. And the next time y'all got to count on your own. Okay. So you ready? Breathe in through your nose. And then you're going to hold it and then blow it out through your mouth. Okay. So ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, you might have had a little bit of trouble doing that, but the more you do it, the easier it gets, the more you practice it, okay? That helps to increase the oxygen levels to your brain. It helps with you just controlling your breathing and just releasing your thoughts, because now you are focusing on your breath. You're focusing on your body. So breathe for 5, all right? And if you want to take it to the next level, you can think about this as you're breathing, but I don't want to overwhelm you, okay? But you can imagine and visualize yourself breathing in light or breathing in goodness, breathing in blessings, okay? And then you're holding it there. And then when you exhale, you are blowing out the negativity, blowing out the fear, blowing out the anxious thoughts, okay? Next tip, flex your body. I think I've shared this before, but literally start at the top and go all the way down to your toes. But like, when I mean flex your body, I mean like tense it up on purpose. Tense up your eyebrows, tense up your nose, tense up your mouth, tense up your whole face, tense up your neck, tense up your shoulders, tense up your arms, tense up your hands, tense up your stomach. I know I look like a whole crazy mess right now. Tense your butt cheeks, tense your back, tense your thighs, like all the way down to your toes. Okay? Do it slower than that. I was just trying to get through it quickly to demonstrate, and y'all get the point. And it might feel and look silly, but 1, you don't got to do it in front of other people. And 2, your health matters then more than somebody thinking that you're crazy. Okay? But whenever you are doing that, you are causing a disruption in your thought pattern, and then you're focusing on the tenseness in your body, the contracting and releasing of your muscles. And it's hard to think a thought when you're in the middle of doing that. Okay, so it causes a disruption. Kia says, girl, you're giving me a rush. You know, I got to wear this oxygen, so now I have even more oxygen on oxygen. Is that even safe? Listen, you're going to have to ask your physician about that one, all right? But I hope so. I hope so. Okay. I mean, I would assume it's better. Can you ever have too much oxygen? Is that a thing? But I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. So let me stay in my lane and allow the experts to do their thing in their lane. Okay. Okay. So breathe for 5, flex your body, ground your senses. And what do I mean by that? This is what I mean. When I say ground your senses, I want you to just get calm and I want you to close your eyes, do a little deep breathing, and then I want you to think about something that you're seeing. So obviously you would have to open your eyes about that, but focus. So before you start with your sight and then close your eyes after you do the sight one. Focus on something across the room and very intently focus on it. For example, you guys can't see it, but on this side of the wall, so you guys see how it's a gold wall behind me? The wall across from me is also gold, except it has like a geo pattern on it. Okay. So it has a design on the wall in white. And so if I just look at it, it looks like gold and white. But if I focus on it intently, then I can start to see the texture of the actual wall. So just looking at it, it looks smooth, it looks plain, it looks normal. But if I focus on it, I can literally see the textures. I can see little specks because the wall isn't completely smooth, even though it's a smooth wall. It's not completely smooth still. And I can see, oh, right there, I can see where the paint, like where the tape was ripped up to make the lines. I can see right there where it bubbled up a little bit right there because I'm focused on it. Or if I looked over here, it might just look like a blind when I'm looking normally, but if I focus intently on the blinds, I can see a speck of dust right there. I can see a dot right there. I don't know what that dot came from. If it was already on there, or it might have been a splash of paint at some time because it looks like it might be purple, and these two walls are purple. So you get it? You're going to focus intently. You're going to start with focusing on something that you can see, and then you're going to close your eyes and you're going to focus on something that you can hear. And this is really fun to do, guys. Well, it is for me. It might not be for you, but that's why you're getting 16 different tips so you can find what works for you. But whenever I do this, and even if you're not having anxious thoughts, this is just nice to do to like center yourself, okay? Ground yourself. Start with the sight, and you're literally going to go through all 5 senses. And then start focus on a singular thing that you can hear because it's so crazy. Like sometimes I will notice the whir, like whir, the soft noise of the air conditioning running or the heater running. Like in everyday life, we don't notice that because, we're attuned and accustomed to hearing that we don't even hear it. But when it's kicked on, now we can hear that little whirring noise when we focus on it. Or this is one of my favorite ones. When I hear the birds chirping outside. Whereas normally I wouldn't hear them or notice them because I'm inside. But if I quiet myself and focus and center myself and I am intent on hearing, don't worry, it didn't freeze. I was listening. There's no birds right now, but as I was in the middle of my sentence, I heard something because I was now focused on it and it sounded like the wind. And I was trying to make out what exactly the sound was. Was it a wind or was it something in the distance? And so you'd be amazed at how much more attuned your senses become whenever you intently focus on something. And it disrupts the thought pattern. Because if I'm focused intently on what I'm looking at or what I'm listening to, and then also, of course, like I said, you're going to go through all 5 senses on what you're smelling. Right now, it smells like Hawaiian breeze. A couple minutes ago, it didn't smell like that. Now I have an air freshener right there, but because I've had that air freshener up and out for about a week, I have gotten used to the smell. And so now I'm not easily smelling it as when I first opened it. But when I focus on smelling it, I can still smell it. Okay. Then you're going to do your taste. Mhm. Roll your tongue around in your mouth. Taste your spit, your saliva. You might find a kernel of popcorn on the side of your tooth. Mhm. Oh, in that corner of my mouth, it was a little bit of chips left. Or over here, I can taste a little hint of sweetness left from the piece of candy I had earlier. And then you're going to go to the things you feel. So just feeling this chair against my back, feeling my butt cheeks on the chair, feeling the armrest in my hands and even rubbing it back and forth and feeling the little bumps, the ridges. You guys hear me scratching that? The ridges on the armrest. Is that making sense, guys? So you're going to ground your senses and you're literally going to go through each one and you're going to focus on one thing for each sense. Cousin Tabitha says, too much for me. That's okay. That's why I'm sharing with you guys lots of tips, because what works for one person doesn't work for another person. Kia says, I love the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. She says, think about 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. And she says, wait, that's what you're talking about. Yes, do that very thing. Except in this sense, I was saying focus on one thing very intently for each different sense. And actually, I have something that's kind of along with that very thing, Kia, which I'm going to share next. Auntie Kia says, LOL. Judy says, that's true. Hey, cousin Judy, welcome. Glad to see you tuned in. So with the one I just shared about grounding your senses, I said to focus intently on one thing. But now here's a tip where I call it the environmental threes. So very similar to the tip that Kia just shared, except this, you're doing 3 things for each one. Okay, so this is it's a bit more broader than the one I just said. Ground your senses, focus intently on one thing. The environmental threes is what I call it. You're going to name 3 things that you can see, name 3 things that you can feel, name 3 things that you can smell in the moment, and so on and so forth. So you're going to go through 3 things for each of the senses. And this is kind of like a Where's Waldo, find all the things in the picture type of thing. Because, there's one thing. Ooh, what do I smell? Okay, I smell the Hawaiian Breeze air freshener. What else do I smell? What else do I my nose is a little cloggy, so I'm not smelling much right now, but you get the point. So I call that the environmental threes. Auntie Kia calls that the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So you do this however you want. This just goes to show, like what we've talked about before, there is no one way to get to the solution, okay? There is no one way end all be all answer. There is not a singular solution, okay? So how one person comes to the conclusion might be a different way than the other person comes to the conclusion. How one person uses the tips to relax might be different than what somebody else uses. And that is okay, family. Look, see, cousin Tabitha says, I like that one better because we're all different people and that is okay. That's why God says, embrace our differences. We're more alike than we are different, but the differences that we do have, embrace them. Embrace your flaws. They're a part of who you are, okay? So one more. Therapy. Go to therapy. If you are truly like just having lots of struggles with the anxious thoughts and fears that you are having with the you're ruminating on the doubts and all of the things, therapy. Ooh, in my Kendrick Lamar voice, therapy. Anybody know what song I just referenced? Okay. Again, I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. Everyone needs a therapist. Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. And it doesn't matter if you aren't going through anything, okay? Because a therapist can help you uncover maybe things that you didn't realize were subconsciously impacting you. Or it can help you maintain, because here's the thing, life is going to life regardless. And we might be in a season of calmness right now, but that doesn't mean when we turn the corner tomorrow that we won't be hit with a hailstorm. And if we already have the tools to cope and we've already been practicing them before we get into the storm, then it becomes a lot easier to implement the tools in the middle of the storm, which is why we have to study our word every day, which is why we have to talk to God every day. Because when we find ourselves in the middle of spiritual battles, it becomes easier to use the spiritual tools that God has given us. If we don't know what they are, they're useless to us. If we don't know how to use them, they're useless to us. Okay? So that doesn't mean that you have to see a therapist once a week. You don't have to see a therapist once a month. But, just get on a regular schedule with a therapist, because everybody that I have talked to that has made significant strides in their life has a therapist. And then the ones that say therapy doesn't work for me probably either gave up too soon, or probably was closed-minded, or probably didn't do the work to find their best fit therapist. Because I will tell you this, family, therapy is not a one size fits all. There are all different kinds of therapy types and categories, and there are all different types of therapists. So you need to do your due diligence about, okay, what type of modalities, that's just a fancy word of methods, a fancy way of saying methods. What type of methods does this therapist use? And do I align with those methods? Are these methods that work for me? Just like how I just shared some tips for anxiety. And Tabitha was like, oh, I don't like that one. And then the next one, she was like, oh, I like that one better. Okay, every method won't be for you, and every therapist won't be for you. But some people will go to one therapy session and be like, oh, I went, it's not going to work. Well, first of all, it's going to take more than one session to have a breakthrough. Not that you can't have breakthrough moments in that single session, but for the lasting change, you're going to need more than one session. Okay. And some of you need to find a different therapist than who you're going through. But be careful with that, because a good therapist is going to get you out of your comfort zone. So be careful that you aren't just looking for a yes man, because that's not what you want in a therapist. All right. And Tabitha says, and coaches and mentors. Yes, I'm a coach myself. So, I'm definitely an advocate for that. Therapist, coach, mentor, but just know you're in a different headspace for those things. For a therapist, a coach, and a mentor, those are three different places. Because I have a background in therapy, but I'm also a coach. And so sometimes when I'm talking to my friends and they specifically want some advice about something, I have to say, before I answer, do you want therapist Lindsay, you want coach Lindsay, or you just want friend Lindsay? Because those are three different answers of how I'm going to approach the situation. Okay? And those are three different mindsets. You can have all three of them at the same time. Okay? They aren't mutually exclusive, but just know that they attack situations in different ways. All right. Therapy is more for healing the past and coping with the things that we are going through, whereas coaching is more goal oriented and future focused. A lot of times with coaching, you need therapy. Just think of that as the foundation. Coaching and mentorship, that's on top of therapy. All right. Therapy is helping me cope with the day-to-day things. Coaching is helping me to reach my goals in the future. Think of it kind of like that. All right. So therapy. And there's all different types. So you have to ask yourself, do I want a Christian therapist or does it not matter? Now, as for me and my house, we going to have somebody that's going to believe in Christ. Okay? Because I need to know that the things that you're helping me with, you too are being led by the Spirit. All right? I'm not saying we got to pray in our therapy session. I'm going to pray before it and after it regardless, but I need for my therapist to believe in the Lord. But I have a friend who believes in the Lord, but she has a therapist that doesn't, and that therapist works for her. That's her prerogative. That's her option. That's her choice. I'm not going to judge her for that, but that's what works for her. Do you want a male therapist? Do you want a female therapist? Do you want a young therapist? Do you want an old therapist? All of those things matter. Do you want a Black therapist or Asian therapist or a white therapist? Do you want a therapist that works with everybody, or do you want a therapist that only works with a specific group of people? Do you want a therapist that focuses on all the things, or do you want a therapist that only focuses on anxieties and doubts and things of that nature, on all the different types of anxieties? Do you want a therapist that only focuses on relationships and so on and so forth? So finding your right fit therapist. It might take a little bit of work, but once you find that one, baby, it's going to be life-changing, okay? For me, there was one point in my life where I had two therapists, not on purpose, but that's how it happened, because I was very specific in the type of therapist I wanted. I wanted a therapist that was in my same age range about. One, because if you haven't noticed already, I like to use a lot of cultural references. And I don't mean cultural Black, I mean cultural in our current times. But so when I give a cultural reference, that doesn't mean they have to understand every single thing. It's nice if I don't have to stop and explain every single time. Oh, well, this means this. Did you see that viral video that everybody's laughing at? This is where it came from. But on that same token, I also wanted a Black therapist. Now, this one I very specifically wanted because I've been surrounded by majority white people all of my life. And that's not an issue. I love my vanilla cousins just as much as I love my chocolate cousins, okay? But in my therapy session, that is a safe space, and I am processing through the things that I've been going through. If I were to give a Black cultural norm, I didn't want to have to stop and explain that every single time, because there are some things that are specific to a Black culture. Some sayings, some dialects, okay? Just like in all the cultures, some things that are specific to a white culture, to an Asian culture, to a Hispanic culture. I didn't want to have to stop and explain that every time. So I said, how do I eliminate or at least decrease a chance of that happening? Okay, I find a therapist that is somewhat in my age range, and I find a therapist that is Black. I also find a therapist that is female, because I don't see myself opening up to a male as easy as I would open up to a female. Now, again, it's personal preference, because some of you would be fine having a male therapist. But as for me and my life experiences, I know that it would be easier for me to be more vulnerable and open up to a female therapist versus a male therapist. So those were very specific things that I wanted in a therapist. Believes in God, somewhere around my age range. They don't have to be exactly my age, but somewhere in like a 10-year span, up or down. Black, believes in God, around my age, Black, and female. Those are 4 requirements that I required. And given where I live, I wasn't finding that. So I had to go online. And I didn't necessarily want to drive to go to therapy. Drive far, I mean. And so I just so happened to find one. There was one that because I wanted to do in person versus virtual. But again, my options were limited. So I found one that was in person, but I had to drive an hour and a half to get there. And then I found one that was virtual, but like I said, I didn't want to do virtual. So anywho, one of them had a wait list and I signed up for the wait list. And then one of them, they had availability. And so I went with her. And then as I went with her, the other one had availability. And so I did both of them because I was like, well, I'll just see which one works better for me. And then I'll let go of the one that doesn't work. But it turns out, thank God, that I was blessed enough that both of them worked and they helped me in different ways. Now I only see one of them regularly. I stopped seeing the other one, but I still see the one regularly. So there, I say all that to say, sorry, this was a really long-winded story, but there was a time in my life, specifically when I told y'all about that 2.5 years in the valley, where I was literally seeing a therapist once a week. I would see one, the next week I would see the other, then I'd go back to the other, then I'd go back to so I was seeing them bi-weekly, but on opposite weeks. So I had a session every single week. And then as things started to settle out and I started to figure things out, and then I started just having 2 sessions a month. And then I went down to 1 a month. So I say all that to say, you don't have to feel like, okay, I got to have weekly sessions or I got to have monthly sessions. Whenever you're going through big things in your life, it's okay to have more sessions. Whenever you're kind of coasting, it's okay to scale back a little bit and just have sessions to maintain. You do what works for you. And it's okay to be flexible in how you are scheduling them. Okay, family? So that's what I wanted to share with you about therapy. I didn't mean to get all those details, but I feel like it's important because I remember one time I brought up therapy and somebody had commented, they was like, what? They have Christian therapists now? And so the fact that there are people out there that don't even know that a Christian therapist is available says that we still got a lot more work to do around just mental health in general. And making therapy more readily available to everyone, not just to wealthier people that can afford it, Cousin Tabitha says, I learned that I'm taking helping others who aren't in counseling. Can you clarify? I think it got a little messed up because I want to make sure I'm understanding your statement. Kia says, yes, you can tell I've been with my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tip. And thanks for sharing that because Tabitha, she loved that one. Auntie Kia says, my daddy always says you are either in a storm coming out of you are either in a storm coming out of a storm or headed for a storm. So either way, you are going to deal with a storm at some point. I like that saying. Yeah, because it just goes to show we go through seasons. All right. So let me give you guys this is officially the longest devotional that we've had yet. I learned that when I take counseling, helps others who aren't in counseling. Yeah, because whenever you heal yourself, you have no choice but to be a better person whenever you are healing yourself. Okay. And that rubs off on other people. Otherwise, we project the things that we are fighting and battling onto other people. So, but let's get into our day 66, intentional insight and act. We have officially, this is literally our longest session of DTM so far, because so far we have not officially hit the 2-hour mark and we are at 1 minute, 58 seconds, or not 58 seconds, 58 minutes. And I know I'm not going to get this out in 2 minutes. But day 66, your intentional insight and act. In the next 24 hours, we just went through all of those tips. Pick 3 of the calming tips to practice in the next 24 hours. Any of them. It's okay if it don't work. Maybe it's not for you. Try another one. Or maybe it's not working and you just need to keep at it and not give up. Maybe you just need to keep trying it again. You just have to decide, okay, which one of those is for you. So pick 3 of all the tips that we just shared and practice them in the next 24 hours. Definitely if you find yourself having anxious thoughts, but even if you aren't having any anxious thoughts, because again, when we practice the tools, they're easier to utilize whenever we need them. Okay, so that's it. In the next 24 hours, what about journaling? Yes, that is one as well. But I think I talked about that on a previous day. I couldn't remember, but there are lots of different ways. So I'm glad you said that, Tabitha. She said, what about journaling? And so I just shared with y'all 16, but I want you to know that there are lots and lots and lots of different ways. I just shared with you a few, but I can't go through all of them. Otherwise, we'd be here for a whole nother 2 hours. Okay. So find what works for you. And if journaling works, do that. If walking outside in nature works, do that. Okay, that's why I gave you guys all different kind of options. Feel free to tweak them so that they do work for you. Like, okay, I like the breathing in for 5, holding for 5, and breathing out for 5, but that was a little bit too long for me. But so I think I'm going to adjust it and breathe in for 3, hold for 3, breathe out for 3. So don't be afraid to like adjust them to make them work for you. Okay, journaling is another thing that you can do to relax or to release the anxious thoughts. All right. So guys, that is all that I have for you on day 66. That is a wrap. Remember, you can find all the things that you need to find at mindsetmastersuite.com. You can download your free copy of the book so you can follow along. You can submit a prayer request. You can submit your answers to our favorite list. You can officially subscribe to our DTM community and do all of the things. There's actually some links on there. If you are looking for a therapist, you can put in like what type of insurance you have, if you have insurance, or if you want like a pay plan. And you can put in just the different parameters if you want this area or that type, or male, female, all of that stuff. So there are 3 different links on there that do like an overall search. So they aren't specific to one therapist. So you can click on the link and you can find therapists in your areas, and you can put in the different filters and stuff for what works for you. So that's always been available on mindsetmastersuite.com. That's why I tell y'all to go to the site all the time, because there's lots of tools and resources right on the site that a lot of y'all ain't even noticed. So with that said, mindsetmastersuite.com. We are here same time, same place tomorrow, midnight Eastern. If you are in a different time zone, then please make sure that you convert it to whatever is your local time. And we will be back tomorrow for day 66. All right, family? Thank you for being here with me and spending your time. I appreciate you. I will be praying for you, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Tabitha says, great session. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Yes. 67. We are at. Aunt Fran says, good night. Whew, good night, family. Bye.